The face of agriculture has changed. Once a male-dominated field, the industry is now equally composed of both men and women working to feed the world in various roles. While women have made great strides to achieve their place in agriculture today, are they perceived as equals to their male counterparts? Are they treated to the same opportunities, compensation, and respect? Delve deeper into this issue by taking a look at data from a 2015 survey from agcareers.com entitled Gender Roles and Equality in Agribusiness, and hear opinions from leading women in the industry celebrating women in the agricultural workplace.
So when people say, oh my gosh, you farm? And I say, well, yes, I do. But then I'll turn around and say, oh my gosh, your husband bakes pies? And they'll say, yeah, why? Well, it's the same kind of parallel that runs together, you know. Oh my gosh, a guy's in the kitchen. Oh my gosh, a girl's farming. Things are getting switched up, you know. The way that our culture is and is going, it's just exciting, and I'm so happy that more women are getting into farming because it's a good thing.
As someone with 10 years of experience in their 30s sitting in a meeting in the agriculture industry, there are times where I may be the only woman in the room, but that's just that specific meeting, that specific day. If I think back to 25 years ago and what those women were when they sat in a meeting, there might have been one woman sitting at a meeting, and that was the entire industry.
In a study done by agcareers.com, with 64% women and 36% men answering, 80% of both genders felt that the attitude toward women in the agricultural workplace had changed for the better. But more than 70% of women still reported feeling outnumbered by men in agribusiness.
Us two and one other girl are the only females on our team. The rest of them are all males. There's what, 10 of us? Five males and 3 girls. Yeah. And then literally every farmer that I deal with, every barn that I deal with is owned by a male. Most of them are old enough to be my dad. The rest of them are old enough to be my grandpa. I have a few of them that are in that early 30 range, but coming into that job, being a 22-year-old female, and you're their manager, you're their field rep. I mean, we control everything from feed, transportation, any meds that we use on pigs. I mean, they can't do any of that unless they go through us.
So when I started working in agriculture, I didn't realize going into it how male-dominated it was. And I will say, being a young woman, I started there when I was 21, it was not an easy road to find how and I had big dreams of climbing up that ladder, and it was very difficult to maneuver my way through that. I heard it called the good old boys club more than once, you know, and that's just kind of the way it was. I had a great career there. I had some great mentors who were men there. I have friends who I still stay in contact with. It wasn't a let's not let women up the ladder type situation. It's just the way it was, you know, and in the production agriculture world, it's kind of like that too. So it's time to change.
After I moved back here to central Iowa, because I thought I would want to start working on an advanced degree, I was out with the Story County Extension Director, Jim Christie. And Jim Christie had been in the county forever and was beloved. And he said, well, we're going to go see this farmer. He's got a problem with some alfalfa. And so I said, okay. And we get there, and we get out of the car, and the farmer said, literally, I don't want no woman looking at my alfalfa. And I thought, okay, I was going to get back in the car, you know. And Jim goes, no, we're going to go back there. You know, I know where this field is, and we're going to go back and take a look at it. So we're walking back there, and I'm thinking, oh no, you know, this is going to be a weird situation. But we get back there, and I was blessed because it was a very simple problem. It had a lot of aphids that had done no damage, and they'd all been parasitized, and parasitized aphids sticks to the leaf, and they're silvery because all they are is what's left of the skin of the aphid, so to speak. And so I was able to explain all that, and the farmer was happy. Jim Christie, the county extension director, was happy, and we all got to leave. And I would see that farmer, and then, you know, he had a different view of me after that experience.
I don't think today that the agriculture industry is male dominated, especially when you look at women in their, with 10 years of experience, out of college. A lot of my peers are women. I work with a lot of women in my office. It doesn't feel like it's male dominated. It feels like it's equal. And in my world, it probably almost feels more female than male. I do still think that there are stereotypes. Even in my own company, in an agricultural cooperative where farmers are bringing in grain to our locations, we have a woman and her job is outside operations. She dumps trucks, she loads sprayers. And when I met her for the first time, I had to recheck my own personal stereotype because I was like, wow, way to go, good for you, strong woman. And then I thought to myself, no, you're a person. And if you're good at this job, then that's the job that is good for you.
I'm any other employee. I can do the same thing Joe can do.
Yeah.
And they hold me to that, and they hold their producers to that same standard that you should. She's your manager. She's a girl, great. Glad we all noticed, but she's your manager.
Yeah.
And so that helps too. Having a company that has your back in that aspect as well.
Oh my gosh, gender roles and equality. My dad never let us feel like we couldn't do something or that we would be able to do this if we were a boy when I was little. And even today, I shouldn't say he lets us. No, he expects us to do certain things. And when you talk to people about what you have been doing and they say, oh my gosh, you're doing that? I never knew I couldn't. No one ever told me I couldn't.
I have experienced, a lot of great women leaders who have embraced me, and men as well. And I think it's because the generations ahead of us have really fought for that equality, that we have the opportunity to walk into a room and to own it and to expect that equality from our male counterparts. I think if you demand that equality, you can do it. You can do that in a number of ways and in different ways, and expect to receive it. So I've been very fortunate.
There are some that feel like inequality is an issue, and then there are others that don't. And it all depends on the culture of your business, your specific organization, where you are in your career.
Responses to the Gender Roles and Equality in Agribusiness survey indicate a disparity in pay between genders, with men typically earning more than women in agribusiness. There was a significantly higher percentage of men than women earning $70,000 plus, while a much lower percentage of men than women were earning $50,000 or lower.
I don't know why there would be a wage gap, because the women that I work with every single day deserve to make as much or more as their male counterparts. So there's a flaw in some system somewhere that I can't explain, but it should change, and I hope it does. And I feel like the strong young women that are kind of stepping into these roles and working their way up in the systems are going to demand that change. And I think that's okay, because they're very deserving of every single dollar that their male counterpart would get, and maybe even more.
My middle sister went to Iowa State, and she had a degree in ag and biosystems engineering. Now, her salary cap in that role would be much higher than mine in public relations and journalism. However, she has 2 little boys, and she's made the choice to not necessarily work in the ag and biosystems field and to work part-time. So her salary cap will be different than mine, even though I'm in what would typically be not quite as high of a paying career. I'm in my 30s and I don't have children, so I haven't exited the workforce, so my earning potential at this point is higher than some of my peers, because I let work be my life, and I work lots of extra hours, and I'm willing to do that, and that's my choice. I've had conversations with people that I went to journalism school with, and they say, okay, I focused on my career for a few years, and now I have small kids, and I don't really care about writing newsletters anymore. My number one priority is to be with my kids. And I think that's great, and I think that's awesome that people have that opportunity to choose, but it's going to create salary disparities, and I don't think it's necessarily fair to say overall that we have a pay inequality because people have made choices. There are men that could choose to stay home. That's not necessarily the culture that we live in. I hope someday that it is, that that's more welcomed, but I do think the answer to this one, again, it depends.
One thing we see on campus is that we have trouble keeping a nice balance in the number of female faculty versus male faculty. That we have a tendency to lose female faculty, and we don't know if they're following a spouse to a different job. They may leave to start a family and not come back. So there are significant issues in addition to salary that are out there and impacting what that workforce looks like.
I know men are more likely to ask for a raise, and I don't think I would ever, at least at this point, ask for a raise directly. It's just not my style, and I've always tried to let my work speak for itself. But that may be partially because my motivation to be in agriculture is because I'm passionate about it, not really because I want to get rich with it.
Women are going to have to stick up for themselves and ask for more. I think a lot of that goes into negotiating for yourself and standing up for yourself. Employers also need to realize that they need to not be offering women less just because women may have more roles that they play outside of the office as well. Just because of that, that doesn't make them worth less in what they can do at the workplace. So it starts with employers, but it also needs to end with women saying, I'm gonna ask for more.
Growing up, my mom always said to me, you have to be an advocate for yourself because no one else is going to be. She didn't mean that like I don't have any allies or friends to help me along the way, but you have to advocate for yourself. And I think that's something that's hard for women sometimes. And if you think about it just in the fact of, okay, it's performance review time, now I'm gonna ask for a raise, that can be amazingly intimidating. What I would say that women need to do a better job of is self-promoting in small ways more frequently. Send your boss an email. Everyone should be humble, no one wants to gloat, but there's a way to show your value on a regular basis. Make sure your boss knows or is copied when someone sends you a nice email. Or when someone gives you a compliment, ask that they share it with your manager. Or if you're in a group meeting, praise someone else, they're more likely to give you praise back. So I think that that's a way that women can help get through that challenging position of asking for a raise.
Women have to be willing to negotiate. They can't sit back and say, okay, well, that's not what I was expecting, and not negotiate. And so how do we help women do a better job when they have an opportunity, when they're in front of a job offer, so to speak, or at their performance appraisal, and they're really representing themselves? Men don't have trouble negotiating. Men don't have trouble articulating what it is that they bring to the company or to their position. But women have a tendency they're not their best representatives sometimes.
You go, I think I'm worth more, but I'm not sure if I am, and what if they say no? And when you're surrounded by people who have so much more experience than you, sometimes it's really hard to justify to yourself that you are worth more than what you're getting paid. But I have to say, every time that I asked for more, I got it. And as hard as that was for me to push myself to do that, you have to be your own best advocate in those situations.
I think just the nature of the agricultural industry today makes it more likely that anyone who wants to advance can. It's growing and changing and expanding, and it's becoming such a broad umbrella of what counts as agriculture that there are massive amounts of opportunities for someone who wants to grow and change. But you have to be in a personal situation where that works. My sister, who had an ag and biosystems engineering job and a little kid, applied for a job, and one of the requirements was you might have to move someday, and that wasn't an option for her. So a man with the same kind of experience without kids got the job. So you have trade-offs in everything that you do, but I think that the agricultural industry today is really exciting, and if there's a woman who is going to be in accounting or in information technology or mathematics, I think that now is the time to be giving them some hints along the way that agriculture has a lot of opportunities for you.
There's always this juggle of, if I ask for more, then I'm going to get it. And when I get it, can I handle all of it? I struggle with that on a daily basis in my role now, running my own company. the more I push to grow the company, the more I bite off and the less time I have for myself or for my kids or for any other part of my life, friends, family. Men just go after those things by nature, and women tend to sit back and kind of listen and watch and wait, and that is not always our greatest attribute in the workplace.
Yes, there are people of both genders that are happy to be where they're at, but there are different ways to reward people and different ways to advance a person professionally than just giving them a raise or giving them a new title. Some people really would like the dollars and the title or a fancy company car. Some would like more flexible hours. Some would like a better bonus package. I think the part of helping women improve their personal position is to understand what they want.
"76% of women with children found it difficult to advance or commit to their career, while 48% of men felt the same."
One of the biggest reasons that I left the role that I was in a very male-dominated workplace, like I said, a great career, but just there was no room for me to be a mom and do that. And while you can't do everything and do it well, you can do it all in one fashion or another. And I wanted to figure that out for myself because there was not a lot of flexibility in that role that I was in. So that's why I put myself in the role that I'm in now. And some days I honestly say, "You're crazy, what are you doing? You're trying to run a business and raise 2 little kids without full-time daycare," you know, and so I'm here working and they're upstairs running around. But that's what I always told myself I wanted them to see me working and to be able to see that and have that flexibility.
When I think about wanting to have children and the fact that I have been so committed to my career, it's a scary thing because after you've not had to have any of that balance and you've tipped the scales completely one way and that's the expectation of your teammates, it can be scary to think about now I have to even that back out. I have to try to figure out how I'm going to balance work and family. I think one of the best pieces of advice to myself when I think about moving that balance is the book by Sheryl Sandberg, Lean In. And she has a chapter about don't leave before you leave. You know, don't worry about what's that balance going to be like until you're actually in that situation. You know, make a choice, sit at the table, and when you make a choice, live it and be happy about it. And so I'm looking forward to having the opportunity someday, but I haven't had to try to have that balance like many of my peers.
I don't think people are leaving the workplace because of crappy compensation or because Joe's making more than Mary. I really don't think so. I think it's just, you know, part of our value system as, you know, people that grew up on the farm. We want to stay home and take care of our children, and I just was lucky and had the opportunity to be able to do that. Not everyone can, but, you know, for those of us that can and make the choice, I guess it's more of a personal one, and it never was driven by income for me.
The best thing about being a woman in ag and seeing peers doing it lots of different ways. I have a woman and she works full time. She buys grain for an ethanol plant. It's a huge responsibility. And she has 2 little kids and she makes it work. I have another peer who worked full time in the livestock industry, had kids, decided I want to be a stay-at-home mom. And you know what? That works really well for her. So it's really great to be in an industry and have grown up with women in the College of Ag and grown up together in our careers to see how many different ways there are to do it. It's really inspiring.
Women also gave more value to flexible working hours than men, with 80% versus 66%.
The younger generation as well, the generation that's just coming out of college, like they value more flexible hours than I did, 15 years ago coming out of college.
As a young woman in agriculture looking for a job and just entering the job market, there's a lot of things I look for. But something that definitely fits my passion, something that's flexible and allows me to kind of express my entrepreneurial spirit, something that also has the same philosophy.
You just have to make sure you appreciate the person that you work for and that they appreciate you, that you get along, and that they inspire you.
We had some good mentors. Another team, there's some female field managers that gave us really good advice, and we have an awesome boss who is constantly encouraging us and telling us to, go to conferences or, just be yourself or you can do it, and just those little bits of encouragement.
Having that opportunity to be mentored by those farmers that I worked with, folks at the co-ops that I knew, my colleagues in Extension that were essentially all men as well, was really a supportive environment. So I felt very good about that.
It always sounds so official. It doesn't have to be this complicated program. You just have coffee with somebody, you walk in someone's office and you close the door. And when you do that, you have to ask for real feedback. You have to be willing to hear what you're not good at and what you can do differently. And that's what the power of a mentor is to me, I think.
I think it's really important to have people in your life that are close enough with you to be really honest about your weaknesses and help you not only point those out and address them, but figure out how you can move forward to become a stronger woman in ag and someone that can be valuable in your career and your community and to your family.
When I started out, I think I would have said, I don't need a mentor, I can figure this out on my own. But looking back over my career through crop insurance and now with FarmHer, mentors have been a huge part of it, and I have a pretty awesome network of people that I am lucky to call advisors, mentors, friends, whatever you want to call it, who I can tap into when I don't know what to do, and talk through it with them. And those are people that I've met along the way in my career.
I want to be there for those ladies when they are stepping into their roles in agriculture, whether it be the business side or the production side, because they're going to be the women who support my daughter when it comes time for her to be able to probably take up a career in ag as well. So it's important to nurture each generation that comes out, because it's never going to be a bad thing. Women in ag's never a bad thing. So if we support each other and really get out there and start cheerleading a little bit, I think you'll see more and more women coming to that career in ag, and it's a good thing.
I think women bring a lot of strength and a strong appreciation for the role that food plays in our family lives and our traditions and our cultures, a respect for the land and for the history that has gone into, and the innovation and know-how that has gone into our industry. And I think women are consensus builders. I think women are really great at solving problems, coming to solutions, and empowering others.
I think the influence of women in agriculture helps us, as producers, to be able to tell our story a little bit better. And by our story, I mean, what we do on a daily basis, because obviously we are, how many generations, most people are off the farm. They're just unfamiliar with the innovations and advancements in technology. But do you see a guy at the grocery store? There's no guys at the grocery store. So we have to, as women, reach out to our peers, because peers are credible. The consumer wants to hear from their peers, and they want to hear about their shared values and ethics, not just, oh, I'm such a good farmer, watch me do this, So it's so important to have women at the forefront so we can continue to talk with the consumer and, at the end of the day, be able to sell more product and have people believe in what we're doing as much as we do.
Now in the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences at Iowa State, women make up more of the population than men. It's just barely, but it's 50.7% women. And so that's really the first time that's ever happened, and you can see their extraordinary set of performances, their commitment, their dreams and aspirations. It's great to work with all of our students, but the young women sometimes in the leadership role, I'll tell you, sometimes they're just more willing to tell me the truth. If there's a problem, a concern about something that might not be going well, sometimes I just can have a more honest conversation with a young woman for some reason, and I don't know what that means even when I say it, but I just see that happen occasionally.
The number one asset that I see that women can bring is communication. They communicate well with each other. There's a less combative nature to that communication. And so, there's so many bridges that are burned in agriculture on a regular basis. big and little, traditional and organic. You know, there's just all these bad things that go on, and I think women have the ability with being able to communicate with one another openly and clearly. I think that's honestly the biggest attribute that I see women bringing to the table.
Just making sure that you don't ever ask anybody to do something that you're not willing to do yourself, and that has taken me a long way in this field. I grew up on a farm, so the one-on-one, show up in your work jeans and have that conversation has always been easy for me, but getting your hands dirty makes it a whole lot easier at the end of the day.
So have faith in your skills, have faith in your ability, be willing to take critical feedback, but have faith in yourself, don't doubt yourself, know that you are good enough, and that is important. I think that's an important thing for women to know.
Just find something you love, try your butt off, and just do it.
Go for what you want. Don't worry about if you can or can't do it. Go for what you want, and if you can't do it all, then you can figure out how to change that, you know, and you can adjust, and you can make it all work one way or another, and do what's right for you, because that's the only way. You only get one chance at all of this, so you got to do it in the way that's right for you. Take a seat at the table, don't take a seat at the side of the room. You know your stuff when you go into a meeting. And another one that I love is don't put your hand down. I'm one of the biggest culprits of that, and I used to be more so. It's a little easier now, it's just me, so it's way easier. But you sit in a room and there's a discussion going on, and you go, I know the answer to this, I know the answer to this, and you kind of keep your hand right here, and then more and more people answer, and you're like, oh, maybe I don't know the answer to this. You know, you put your hand down, but what you have to say is valuable, so stick with it. You know, there's no other way to do it than just sticking with it.
One of the things that I would say is really great about being a woman in agriculture today and having about 10 years of experience is that when I came out of college, it felt like there was nothing that a woman couldn't do. And part of that comes from the fact that when I was in college, every single office in agriculture was held by a woman. The College of Agriculture had a woman as its head, Wendy Winterstein, who's still the dean today. At that time, the Iowa Secretary of Agriculture was Patty Judge, a woman. The USDA Secretary was a woman, Ann Veneman. And I had the opportunity to write a story when I was in college and interview Dean Winterstein and interview then Secretary Judge and just get that inspiration that they had really blazed a trail for us. You know, today might be the only woman sitting in one meeting. 25 years ago, Patty Judge would have been the only woman sitting in agriculture in probably the whole state or part of an industry. And so I think that one of the things that is helpful as a younger woman in agriculture is just to think about the fact that those women really blazed the trail for us, and utilize that experience, ask them for help and ask them questions and help you advance yourself.